welcome to Tell the Truth. We have a guest with us today. Sometimes when we want to tell the truth, we need to bring in someone smarter. So we brought in Brian Massey, the conversion scientist from Conversion Sciences, and he's a conversion scientist, and it's all science. And we're going to be talking about what B2B can learn from B2c Marketing, which primarily you are in the business of helping people improve certain metrics.
You might say that. It's a little bit more complex than that. We work with B2B and B2C, and we're really about improving their business. So there are some metrics that are very good indicators of how their business is going, such as how much money they're shoving into their bank account. And of course, there's some more complex ones, but ultimately, we are a data utility that helps a business make good decisions, primarily focused on their digital properties. Their website.
Excellent. We're going to figure out what that is here in a few minutes. Welcome, Jason Myers, my
Hello.
intrepid truth-telling partner who helps us dispel the mystery and the pain around the dumpster fire that marketing has become. We want you to be able to make better decisions, save some money, avoid getting ripped off. And we hope that the show helps you do that. And we're here live on LinkedIn every Thursday at 11 o'clock. And it's just a conversation. We bring, actually, Brian, you're our first guest. You're the first one. Wish I had a bell to ring or something. You know, like some kind of, or a whoopee thing. I don't know. But welcome.
I'm so glad you don't.
I've known Brian for a long time, more than a decade. And, you know, I know that he does great work, and he really makes things happen on the conversion end of things. And conversion really, let me give you my definition and see if I'm even, you know, if we all agree. To me, it's when someone goes from a passive state to an active state in the buying process. They've gone from looking at a website, considering doing this, doing that, and they've taken an action directly to do something. It might be buy something, it might be an inquiry. Is that generally conversion?
That's the general consensus on what conversion optimization is. But let me tell you our definition.
Excellent.
Our definition is getting the most value from every visitor to your website. So it can include simply cooking them so that you can retarget them with ads. It can include offering them some sort of content so that you're building out your list. And of course, it can also include converting them to a buyer where they buy your product or sign up for that demo or that consultation. So we're strategically looking at ways to begin a conversation with qualified visitors and then figure a way to continue that conversation through email. SMS is coming on the scene, and that's the way we look at it.
Excellent. Well, I know Jason had some things that he wanted to talk about. I'm just turn it over to Jason, and if you notice any issues with the audio or on the show, just let us know in the comments. We'll take care of it. Apparently, I was hot. I don't know. That
How's my audio?
You sound good to me.
Working okay?
You're
Okay.
pretty hot, Pete.
Well, that's what I've heard.
So the big thing I want to talk about today is what B2B companies can learn from B2C. And let me set that up a little bit because, well, first of all, there's a big movement in B2B to get rid of unnecessary, as we would call it, landing pages. I think the way that you just defined conversion fits into that. It's like, when should we be using landing pages? And the thought is that if I'm in B2B, I'm doing some research, I'm downloading a white paper, I know that the next thing that's going to happen is that I'm going to get a call or an email from a salesperson. And so I become hesitant to download all of this information as opposed to, just getting the information and becoming educated, and I will reach out for a demo when I want to or when I'm ready. And I'm wondering, is that something that you're seeing in the B2B companies that you work with?
The answer is no, but let me qualify that. So let's define what a landing page is. I think what you're talking about is a landing page that is number one, designed to keep a promise that was made in an ad or in a search or even in a link that is on your website. So if the promise is learn more, get more information, then you want to bring them to a page that gives them more information. If the call to action is sign up for a demo, then you want to bring them to a page that says sign up for a demo. So that's the first job of the landing page. Second job is to get them to make a choice, yes or no. Because if you give them enough information that they think they know the answers, they don't need to call, they're going to go off and think about it. And one of your competing solutions is going to get on the phone with them first, and then they're going to get to, establish the conversation. So we want them to make some sort of a decision, even if the decision is like, this is not right for me. Now, the thing we run into is if you're selling complex HR management software, can your website really ever provide them enough information that they can make a decision to say, oh, okay, this is all the information I need for my spreadsheet of comparison, and I'm gonna call these guys? Or is your website about beginning the conversation? The distinction is a website that's trying to convince them of everything and tell them everything they need to know. Is this resource-rich, information-rich, video-rich environment where they get to spend lots of time going through and doing all of that? Website's not going to be as good as a human. So their questions are going to get better answered if they can get on a consultation or get a demo, begin to answer the specific questions that are in their mind. So you can design a website that is completely focused on beginning the conversation. Whenever you're talking about your product or your company, you're building credibility, you're providing proof points, but the proof points for why they should schedule a demo, why they should talk to a salesperson, or why they should talk to a qualified consultant, if that's who you've got on the line. So I think you have to decide if you're going to be able to work hard enough to give them all the information they need through the web, or if your website is going to be about selling the next step.
So yeah, and there's such a distinction there, and it's a little bit, it can seem subtle, but it isn't. In other words, if they hit that landing page, you need to be selling the action, not the product or the service or the thing. It's that intermediate step that you have to be selling. And I think our agency has always been in the position of intentionally limiting the information that is on the B2B website, where we know by looking at the analytics how long they generally will stay on the website. We know where they go on the website and how long they stay there. Other than for the purposes of search marketing, which we'll talk a little bit about that for B2B, giving too much content, people are just not reading all that stuff. They're going to be there for a couple minutes. They're going to decide if you do what they think they need, and I say what they think they need, right? Because it might not be what they actually need, but they need to see it. They need to feel like you're credible, that they can trust you. They're going to check that off in their gut, make sure that your services align with what they think, and what to do next. And that's it. And they do it fast, a lot faster than people think. But they may have done other research before they got there. But I want to throw it back to this landing page issue. Part of this, and again, I hate to be the pedantic guy, but definition of landing page, right? There's wildly different definitions. I think a landing page is anything in the sense that you drove them to from some other medium. And that could be a point to purchase, or it could be, in B2B most of the time, fill out a form, right? So so Jason's saying get rid of the landing page and the form, or just the form.
Well, I'm saying use it sparingly and with some thought behind it. So obviously a demo or a contact us is going to require a form. You want the form, give you some information ahead of time. But I'm debating whether or not we gate a general white paper, as we have been doing for the past 10 plus years, to generate a lead, so to speak, for salesperson or more likely a BDR. And I think that a lot of the problems that people are running into is they don't want to talk to a BDR when they want to talk to a salesperson or they want to take a demo. They want to talk to somebody that's qualified to answer their questions. So we're putting this step in the middle where the movement I'm seeing is to just get rid of that landing page on a white paper or a webinar altogether. Just let them have the information and concentrate on better marketing that is going to fuel them through the buyer journey to get them to a point where they are sales ready. At which point, why do I want to talk to a BDR? I want to talk to an AE, somebody that can answer my questions.
So today's episode, what B2B can learn from B2C. I don't think so. B2C generally doesn't use landing pages. Are you saying that's one of the things they could learn? It's a little soon to say, right? It's a pretty new idea.
So I like to go back to this Peter Drucker quote that I love, which is he says, "There will always, one can assume, be a need for selling, but the aim of marketing is to make selling superfluous. The aim of marketing is to know and understand the customer so well that the product or service fits him and sells itself." And I think when you look at B2C, there's no salesperson, or you're trying to optimize the buyer journey such the point where the salesperson is just an order taker part of the transaction, where they're getting them to go through most of the steps without having to talk to a salesperson, because a salesperson is expensive. It's an expensive resource. And if it's a low dollar item, it doesn't make sense to have salesperson touch every deal. And so I think in B2B, we've been optimizing for the lead to pass to a salesperson, when what marketing should be doing is optimizing the buyer journey so that when they do reach out to us, that they're ready to have a conversation. They're already sold, maybe not looking at competition, but it's because of the content that you've been putting out has educated them and brought them to you in the first place, ready to buy.
Well, let's talk about that. So first of all, in the B2C world, landing pages are the thing. Now, the landing pages in the B2C world work really hard. We're working to get all of the information on that page that the visitor needs to decide whether or not they're going to take action. So, but those in the B2C world, those questions are around how much money comes out of my pocket. In the B2B world, the questions are around how is this going to impact my career? What's going to happen when I send this link to my boss? And so the result of that is that we tend to be very safe in the way we go to market online as a B2B organization. So if you want a website that is going to take a buyer through the journey such that when they are getting on the phone, they are self-qualified, understand what's going on, and they really need to answer a few questions and scope it for price, right? You've got to be interesting. You have to build trust and credibility, not just make statements. So there's this very intricate dance around making statements, providing proof, and then explaining how you do it. And you have to be designing journeys for at least 4 primary visitors that we target. Competitives, who want to know what's in it for them before they're going to do any more research. Methodicals, do not want to talk to anybody, do not want the personal touch. They need to know all of the details. The humanists need to know how they're going to feel having a relationship with the company. And then the spontaneous visitors, who are just, I don't want to read anything, I don't want to do anything, show me something where I can get to the answer as quick as possible. So you have to understand those journeys and then figure out how your ads drive different people into those journeys. So it is, when you're trying to get a digital medium to be self-service education, and to do it on a par with a human being asking questions and sensing empathy and all of the things that a human being can do on the phone, it's a lot of work, and it's more risk than most B2B marketers are able to take.
Excellent, excellent points. I just thought of something that is really at the very root of this, and that is the fact that this fear that if I fill this form out, sales guy's going to call me. It's rooted in the idea that a sales call doesn't provide any value, right? So that's why people don't want that. You mentioned, I'm going to send this to my boss. Some sales guy's going to call him. One of the things I think B2B, see if I get this backwards again. B2B can teach nope, see I did. What B2C can teach B2B is that you're selling to people. It's all about human behavior, right? It's the psychology of how they buy as much it is about the mechanics of how they buy, if that makes any sense. And I think B2B companies tend to think monolithically, where B2C companies tend to think much more individualized and tailored. Can B2B companies be
And I
more
think to
tailored?
that point, like when Brian was talking, exactly that, like we get so stuck in the buyer personas, we don't consider the types of psychological backgrounds of each one of those buyer personas. So I can have a buyer persona that is, the right title, right company, right thing, but within that, there's going to be 4 different types of people. Some may want the personal touch, some don't, right? And so how do you work with those within the buyer personas?
Excellent point.
Yeah, and those are 4 kind of thumbnail personas. If you have buyer personas that are more detailed in terms of what they want, it's easier to build those out. The 4 that we use were presented by Brian and Jeffrey Eisenberg in their book Waiting for Your Cat to Bark, and they're just a very nice, simple way to come up with kind of common personas. Yeah.
If it looks like I'm not paying attention, it's because I'm sharing the podcast out to different groups on LinkedIn. But I am paying attention. I think there's this, all of this gets at this sort of experiential aspect of the B2C sale is sometimes missing from the B2B sale. Does that make any sense? Like the B2B sale or buyer's journey, let's call it, because it's marketing crosses over into sales. That whole time, I think it often can lean to less personal. And what that translates to in the wild is the consulting firm that changes people's lives by maybe changing their architectural environment, and they show not a single human being in their website anywhere. Not thinking about how cognitively people engage with that, or using artwork, for example, as just decoration rather than leveraging that space to reinforce and send a solid message. It's likely going to be a B2B company that's going to use, that picture of a hands shaking, that one. That's the one they're going to use, right?
We call that business porn. You know what the caption for that is, don't you?
No, what is it?
We want to shake your hands so that we can start sending you invoices.
Oh, is that it?
Why would you put that on your landing page?
Just to mess with people, I should make one like this. Just they won't know. But I think B2C companies have gotten a lot better about understanding, when they arrive at, let's say, a digital property, they're considering the experience and they're using that space, instead of it being sort of a lost opportunity. So I think that's another thing that B2B companies could learn from B2C is making it more about the person and understanding. It's also a messy business, right? So there's a science, but it's kind of a messy science. I'm going to guess because human beings are involved.
Human beings are involved, and you're right, it is. But for instance, we tend to be coy and persuasive. So on a landing page that is a landing page where you fill out a form and you're getting a sales call, we don't actually talk about the sales call. We don't. No, I mean, why not? Sales call is a fantastic service that your company is offering to somebody who's trying to make a decision around HR management software. This is not. I'm willing to give you 30 minutes of one of my most expensive employees' time So why not talk about that on the landing page? This is going to be 20 to 30 minutes. You're going to be talking to one of our business development reps. This person is highly trained and able to answer your questions. Here's some examples of questions you'll get answered. How much should I budget for this? What is this targeted for a business my size, or is it too big or too small? You know, whatever those questions are, like make the landing page about the sales call, because it is a valuable thing. We're all kind of like, oh, people don't want to get on a sales call. Those people that don't want to get on a sales call aren't ready. They might be the methodicals, and they're just not going to do that. You got to go after those through some sort of account-based marketing approach. But that humanist is going to be all about it. Like, I want to know who I'm dealing with. They'll be completely open with me. And the spontaneous guys are going to be like, yeah, whatever, I'll talk to them.
So different types of buyers, different ways of analyzing the information. I kind of jumped in there at the beginning, and I think I may have misunderstood at first. You know, I think that generally what we're talking about, a bad sales process is what they fear, and there's a lot of really positive ways to do that. For example, in B2B, we spend a lot of time educating them. So, you know, let's say we deliver a downloaded piece, whether we use a form or not, or whether they just get it and there's no landing page. That piece needs to deliver real meaty value. And I know I'm speaking to the choir because, Brian, you do a lot of publishing and speaking, and you're all over the place with your message. You're not all over the place with your message. I'm saying that you're all over the place. Pause with your message, right? And I think that an educated buyer is better for B2B because it's a more considered sale usually. But you could argue that the yacht sales place is a B2C company. They're selling yachts.
Yeah,
that's got to be a considered purchase.
Well, how much language do you see on B2B sites that talk about the visitor's evaluation? The visitor's in the middle of an evaluation. Like, here is
never really.
Here's a call that's going to help you in your evaluation. We're going to help you check the boxes on your spreadsheet that you inevitably have, and you know, help you rank us amongst the other solutions. Like, why, thank you very much.
Well, and how honest, right? That's a great idea. I think, Jason, what do you think? You produce a lot of content for B2B companies. You know, Brian is saying just tell them what you're up to there.
Yeah.
I love the forthrightness, right? Like, I like the, you know, let's tell them exactly what they're going to get when they do it. I just think we need to be careful in B2B when we do that, right? Like, so if I'm optimizing for that, like, how much do I put barriers in front of people when they're just clearly not ready?
Well, that's the other side of it. It's like, right, you know, we don't really want to talk to you unless you're this size, or unless you've already invested in this. Like, you know, wouldn't you be glad to know that, oh, this is not the right one for me? Instead of
absolutely.
There's
as soon as possible.
One of my pet peeves is like people that hit the contact us button and then they want to sell me something.
And then they want to.
In other words,
they turn around and sell me something instead of having a sales conversation about our solution and how it applies.
He's saying we all have those forms that say contact us, and I get it all the time. And usually it's not even in the ballpark of something that my type of company would be interested in. So, yeah, forms are problematic, and especially since the development of the bots that can defeat the CAPTCHA. You know, I had one client that just maddening, you know, the only form fills he gets are spam. So maybe there is a more streamlined way. Maybe we can get more to the point. Tell us real quickly about conversion sciences and what the company does. And I know a little bit about this, but you're really looking at this equation and testing.
Yeah, so, I mean, our goal, as I said, is to get the most value from every visitor. Clients come to us when they are, well, for instance, typically they're the money they're spending on paid search ads, which is the best quality ad traffic you can generally get. It's intent driven instead of interrupt driven. Are getting too expensive, and so they're not able to grow their traffic because it's not cost effective. So the next question is, how do we get more of the visitors that we're paying for coming to our site to convert, to become customers, or at least to begin the conversation so that we can market to them through email, text marketing, things like that. So, that's our primary job. And the way we go about doing that is we begin to understand the visitors through their behaviors. There's a qualitative side, which, having the personas and doing the customer surveys and things like that, that is very helpful. But ultimately, we want to see what happens if we change something or say something differently or present something differently, how that changes their behavior. So we can do that through user testing. We can do that through just looking at this. You've already got this amazing database of visitors who are giving you data, sitting in analytics. Heat map reports are really helpful in understanding what's going on specific pages. And then for those big questions that we don't have enough data, we design an A/B test, and that tells us exactly how our ideas are faring through, visitors behaving with their information or with their wallets.
And that's why you wear the lab coat, because it's the scientific theory, right? Doesn't matter if you think it should be blue, all right? Does blue convert more? Then it gets to be blue. But I appreciate you coming on, and we can definitely continue. We try to wrap it up in about a half hour, but you're listening to Monfrey and Myers Tell the Truth, and we do this every Thursday on LinkedIn at 11 o'clock. And we tell the truth about some of the things going on in marketing. And last episode, we talked a lot about SEO for B2B, and I really wanted to get Brian's take on the value of SEO, because I see an awful lot of money being spent on it, but I don't see a lot of happy people.
I think that's where the initial battle is on the SERPs, and there's a couple ways to win. Out SEO your competition. So I'm a big believer in SEO. It's long lead time. It takes a lot of work to get it done, and everybody's kind of trying to figure out what Google's algorithm is. But you can buy your way onto the search results by buying ads. That can get expensive in some of our markets. But no, I think SEO should be a cornerstone of your marketing.
Even in the B2B world, it's hard for me to imagine somebody Googling cardiac imaging workstation. But they're probably doing research.
If you're in a very specific, unique niche, then you're optimizing for people who are coming back another time. They come and check you out, and then they're looking for you again.
Oh, I see. You might optimize on things way ahead of that sales curve, and that's an opportunity, to use a scientific term, to inoculate them with your message, and be the thing that comes to mind to solve whatever their complicated problem is. But excellent topic. I mean, I think it's funny. I'll admit I had to think about this one a little bit, and I did a little bit of research, and I found 7 lessons B2B could learn from B2B, and then 4 lessons was the second article, and then it got down to 3 lessons, and then I started thinking to myself, well, anybody that's been doing B2B for a while, we do segmentation, we do personalization, at least if they're doing it right. I think a lot of this has crossed over, but Jason's really bringing up some of the more cutting edge ideas on, and you mentioned earlier before we started the broadcast about how COVID, the entire market has changed. And if you haven't changed, if you're still doing the same thing that you were doing 5 years ago, maybe we should talk to me, talk to Jason, talk to Brian. But you mentioned COVID specifically. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, in the B2B space, obviously the biggest impact is how are you backfilling for all the trade shows that aren't happening?
Trade shows, big travel.
The restaurant events, if you're going local, the restaurant events, seminars, and things that you're throwing, those are fantastic ways to, really help people get up the learning curve and have an experience at your company. And those aren't happening. And if you're in a B2B e-commerce scenario where you're selling to businesses, but they can buy online, all of that has gone online. So as our consumer habit of buying online makes more and more of us comfortable with doing transactions online, we're going to start doing that in our business.
Well, look at us doing Zoom like it's nothing. I mean, we did Zoom before, but somehow, not just Zoom, but teleconferencing now, it's just changing even the state of commercial real estate. You know, it's hard for me to get across what I'm saying, and it's like literally almost everything has changed. And I think that consumers' behavior, how they use media, how they do research, if you haven't really looked at your processes when it comes to demand generation, how you shepherd people through your funnel and how you close those deals, if you're still doing it even if the way you were doing it 2 years ago. And it's funny that you mentioned events, right? Because you all know this. We were running a monthly event, and guess what it did for us? It gave us record revenues, and then COVID stopped it. Right. And so luckily those are starting again. But I didn't really think of it that way. I was thinking more of bigger, trade shows. Actually, I hear about that problem all of the time when I talk to prospects. They're just basically, some of them are like, we don't even know what to do now.
Another
Jason.
point on that is that CMOs have done well in capturing that budget that used to go to trade shows and funneling it into digital marketing over the past couple of years. And so where we are now is we've got a tsunami of content, and breaking through that noise, you can't just be pretty good. You've got to really be stellar and concentrate on creative. And that's another thing I think that we can learn from B2C.
Well, and I think that speaks to what Brian was saying about using SEO. Is you're talking about you got to increase your reach, and you have to have some level of findability now. And this is what I often tell people that come to me and they want to design an app, right? And the apps, they're going to get rich from this app. I'm certain of it. No, they're certain of it. I'm not. And I say, look, you just created one more grain of sand on a massive beach on the ocean of sand. Okay, so findability starts to become a big deal, and I'm sure SEO. I'm going to rethink my position on SEO, but like most things marketing, I think that B2C and B2B have in common is it's a commitment. It's not something you try a little bit. It's not something that you turn on and off. You don't do that with your finance department, do you? You don't do it with operations, but somehow marketing gets a pass on that. And we well, if we do this tiny little thing and we get massive results, then we'll do more of it. It's like, it doesn't work that way. If you're going to be into SEO for whatever your business, it is an ongoing thing. It's a process, not a project. That's how I would put it. And you're testing and you're measuring and you're applying some level of scientific theory. And actually, you and I talked about wholesale redesigns of websites. Sometimes you have to because it's just the website's such a mess. But most of the time, that's not going to tell you what, if you change everything, you don't know what worked.
Exactly. Why would you? Why would you redesign that way? Even if it's exists. If you have to switch back ends, you can still test your design ideas on your existing traffic. Like, why wouldn't you?
Yeah,
why wouldn't you
it's interesting.
launch something that already works? And when you find something that does work on your existing site, you go ahead and leave it there. So you're already getting higher conversion rates from these wonderful new designs.
And you know what changed. Anyway, I hope this topic has brought people some value, and really appreciate Brian for coming on. We could obviously sit here and jawbone about this for another hour easily, but there's work to do, and we appreciate your time and coming on, Brian. It's good to see you. And Jason, looks like it's about 10 below zero in Jason's living room.
It is cold here in Kansas City. 6 degrees. Heat is working hard today.
That's not enough degrees.
No, there was a panic here in Austin that it might get around 35. And so make sure you have food and water, folks, 35. But as someone who grew up in Wyoming, where minus 17 is not out of the question, I say, Austin, grow up. But anyway, great discussion, gentlemen. Tune in next Thursday, 11 o'clock Central Time we're going to tell the truth some more. We usually talk about the topic that we're going to do. What topic should we do next, do you think? I have a couple ideas.
I like your phrase, marketing isn't a project, it's a process.
Marketing isn't a project, it is a process. So tune in with us right here on LinkedIn. Thanks, gentlemen. Over and out.
Tell the truth, tell the truth, tell the truth, tell the truth. Just like a fat man trying to reach his shoe. I'm frustrated 'cause I'm trying to get to you. Tell the truth now. Come on, baby, tell the truth.